The following content is provided under a Creative Commons license. Your support will help MIT OpenCourseware continue to offer high-quality educational resources for free. To make a donation or view additional materials from hundreds of MIT courses, visit MIT OpenCourseware at ocw.mit.edu.
Okay, so the way this day is going to be set up is we've got 1 hour to go. Philip, me, and Drew will go to each team, and we're going to talk with each team about your vision statement, your updated vision statement. If you should have one by now. Your product backlog you just turned in, and your sprint task list you just turned in. The main thing we want to talk about is just some more detailed discussion based on the presentations you gave as well. So what are you doing over the next week and a half? What do we think the biggest issues are? What are your plans for Thanksgiving and not working during Thanksgiving? Hopefully. And we'll go in that order. So heat wave, hello wave, snap, cholera, and awesome cholera. It should only take about 5 to 10 minutes per team, unless you have more questions. And then after that, you are free to depart or work in class. We've got the room till 4 as well. Before we do that, Philip had some generalized feedback.
So after looking through all of the state of the projects in terms of the deliverables that you handed us, when we looked through the product backlogs, we noticed something fairly consistent among all of the teams. And that was, you know how you have these columns, right? You have your serial number or your item number of your task, the description of the task, usually who it's assigned to, and then your priority list. Well, first of all, everybody sent us this list sorted by serial number rather than by priority list. That's not so bad because we can always just resort it ourselves. The problem was that the priorities was something like task 1 was priority 1, task 2 was priority 1, task 3 was priority 1, task 4 was priority 1, task 5 is priority 2, and then it goes 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And that, if you get granular enough, that might be fine, but I'm a little bit worried that's not quite granular enough when it comes to your priority levels. Everybody seems to have about 3 to 4 levels of priority, and you get these huge swaths of tasks that all have the same priority. So you don't actually know which one's more important. Now, you might be thinking, well, they're all assigned to different people. So for everybody who has a set of tasks, they have a priority 1 task, and they know what they're supposed to be doing right away. And that's true for the individual. The problem is that if you've got, I'm just going to bring this up. Okay. If you've got, okay, so say this, what the? Oh, here we go. Say this is your product backlog, and you've got a chunk of priority 1 tasks, priority 2 tasks, priority 3 tasks. And each one of these tasks have been assigned to some individual person. Maybe you've got something like all your priority 1 stuff done. All right, all that is cleared, all the most important things got done, you're fine. So now you're somewhere dealing with all your priority 2 tasks. And some of them are done, some of them are not done. Hopefully you're finishing off a priority 2 task before you get to your priority 3 tasks. And so this is person A, this is person B, this is person C, and person C's done their job, person B's done their job, and person A is still working on it. How complete is your game, actually? Your game's only as complete as it's only as complete as person A is capable of finishing their task. So if you've got like a giant list of priorities, if I were to take this list of priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and sat you down and went through the arduous process of actually giving each individual task a separate priority number so that you could actually sort it and rank it, I'm not going to do that because I know it takes a heck of a long time. But if I were to do that, what you'll find most likely is that you've got a bunch of tasks that are done. You have an undone task, a bunch of tasks that are done, an undone task, and then some stuff done, and a whole bunch of undone tasks. And the game's only this done. You are not here. You are not here. You are here. And you need to be able to see that as a team. You need to be able to actually see what is the highest, most important thing that's still not completed? Right now, at the level of granularity that we're looking at all of your product backlogs, all of your product backlogs don't quite have that level of granularity. But it is possible that in your head you actually have that level of granularity, that you actually know in your team what that highest level undone task is, even though they all have the same priority. They're all priority 2 tasks or something like that. So something that will be useful before you depart class today is to actually figure out, of all of the things that are the highest priority and undone right now, what is really the most important thing? And who's responsible for that, right? In fact, all of your highest priority tasks should all be assigned to somebody. And you should have a good sense of what order or priority they are. Because not everybody who's been assigned a task is actually going to be able to complete the task before the next time you meet. And the next time when you meet, when you actually check in and you discover some tasks are done and some tasks haven't been done, you need to know how much progress your team actually made towards completion of the game. Otherwise, you may say, oh, we got 5 out of our 6 tasks. Only that one task that didn't get done turns out to be the most important thing, which means you actually haven't made enough progress on your game at all. And you need to know that so that you can actually start to cut features, scope down, do all the things that we talked about regarding sort of crisis control for your team. So we'll talk a little bit more with each individual team about that. But that's a conversation that you should be having within your own team of all your highest priority tasks, which one's actually the highest priority. Okay.
All right. So take a minute just to meet up with your team, and we're going to go to Heatwave in 1 minute. Also, make sure you've got a playable version of your game, because Drew would like to see it. He was not available for the presentations. Yeah, mainly I wanted Drew to play, since he's played it during the playtest, and there might have been some stuff that changed.
Excellent. That person's on fire. I like it already. Oh my God, people are dying around you to ask me questions. Why? Seriously? You're dying, and I'm talking to you. Why are you walking back when you're dying? All right, cool.
So, just want to be clear, catching on fire is fainting?
Equivalent, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
It's a metaphor. It's meant to invoke
Yes.
an emotional response.
Yes.
It does that? Oh my God, they're all dying. Hello. Go inside. What? No. Okay, well.
Something you should know is the dialogue system, the backend's working, but we actually haven't put the content in yet.
The dialogue will be much more educational
And have choices,
And
which
have- yeah.
it currently doesn't.
Okay. Sure.
You guys are going to want to say right now we don't have an end condition.
Yes.
Well, you
dialogue
eventually will.
Yeah.
Will. It's currently the Space Invaders style. You will eventually die. Any condition?
Yes.
I'll just put that here.
So
Go ahead.
I've got the old vision statement. Did you make a new version of it, and is it on Stellar right now?
No, it is not. I
Okay.
didn't realize if we needed it for today because it wasn't on the homework assignments.
Oh yeah, that's okay. Then just
I'll redo it today.
okay, cool. Yeah, that's I
In
should have put
terms
that
of
on
the
the thing.
task breakdown, it's actually pretty much the same, and the overall vision I haven't looked at in a while, but I think most of our goals are the same.
Yeah, it actually looked pretty. So it's like vaguely when you're reading through the old 30 seconds of gameplay, it feels like this game. A lot of these elements are in there.
We haven't had any major design changes in
Okay.
terms of that.
So between Monday and today, has anything new gone on the chopping block? Are any other features getting cut?
Monday is when the product backlog was
Yeah,
due?
yeah.
No. We cut secondary scenes, and everything else seemed doable because a lot of it. The only other thing that could possibly be cut is items breaking over
Yep.
time. Everything else is actually in progress and just being improved upon.
Okay.
So they might not break. It might be that once you've installed an umbrella, it lasts forever kind of thing, or a water fountain, or whatever we choose.
Okay.
But everything else is in progress, and I really think we're on track to get
Okay.
everything implemented.
So you said a lot of the content you have to get in is the dialogue, and you're also going to be doing some new artwork for the characters. Is Julia the only person doing artwork on that?
She is the only person doing
Is she also doing dialogue?
No.
No. All of that stuff was for my UAP, so I was kind of separately.
Okay. Well, no, but I mean, are you still coding the dialogue system for this game?
Not anymore.
So you're
That's
saying
just
it's bugged?
debugging.
Okay.
We
Okay.
will test it. We know that.
Yeah.
Issues, I would fix that.
That was like the big red flag when Philip and I were talking, is that one
We
person
know that
doing
there's-
two important things.
No. The dialogue is split between.
Oh yeah, no, not the creation of the dialogue. That's not the thing we're concerned about. It's the creation of the art with one person, and that person also being the person in charge of the back end for your dialogue.
Okay, the back end.
It was a lot of work, but again, it's like I was counting the dialogue stuff for my UAP instead, so it's like I was effectively doing two classes. It's just fine with me. So the artwork is my contribution for this project for this class.
Okay. All right. So if you have enough time during the day that if that breaks,
I can get the art
and you're
done.
doing both, okay. All right. We'll see how that goes.
Worst case, we'll have stick figures. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And from our point of view, it's fine.
These people are fine.
These people are fine.
Well, the issue with that
Unless
is
they
one
don't.
of the main learning things about this game is choosing who you're going to try and
That's
help.
true.
And these people do not convey at all
Absolutely.
their characteristics, which is why we're redoing the
And
art.
art is one way of doing it. Floating dialogue, floating boxes is another way of doing it.
We
Floating
have
boxes.
labels.
Are they're broken or?
Have
We
you tried?
deleted them because they were just hard to read, and
Okay.
we didn't have them moving with the characters, so they would stay. We could have made them move, but we just decided it was better to redo the art than try and make the little captions.
Oh yeah,
You
that's
guys don't think I need to do the art, I just not do the art.
Well, okay. I mean, the art is awesome, but it is also a huge bottleneck. If you fall sick, and then a lot of the reliance on your art to be able to convey that very bit important important information falls through, and the project fails. If you don't fall sick and you get all your stuff done, your game just looks better and it's awesome.
Yeah, so
Right,
I mean, since
so-
we have placeholders, so if for some reason I don't
Yeah.
see it, we can just use what we've got now.
Right, but I'm just thinking about tinting the sprite or something like that. Just through software or something. What else can you do that's a little bit
So,
like as a backup?
With heat waves, you can. One thing that happens when you get sick is you turn red.
Right.
So we could tint them red over time and have people starting at different levels of red. But I think, and that's actually something we might be looking into separately, because something Pablo talked to us about was wanting to convey that people are getting sicker over time, and
Yep.
that maybe once you see, okay, somebody's turning red or has an exclamation point or some way of conveying that, let's show the person that they're sick. I mean, the users should need to know. But that's something we're doing as a secondary thing, because we want to focus primarily on making the game better as a whole.
okay. That's cool. All right. Yeah, and all the things we're saying are not at all do this. It's more
It's more of
think about this.
we're flagging our concerns
Yeah.
rather than telling
and
you
prove
how
us
to solve it.
wrong, please.
You guys are on, don't worry.
All right, cool.
The other thing we had was about tutorial and ramping up, right?
Well, actually, more like ramping up. So right now the game's frantic, right? It feels like you have to be everywhere at all places, and that's great for somebody who knows how to play the game, and not so great for someone who's just learning how to play the game. So you already have this concept of days. I don't know if difficulty is ramping up over days, but
Actually, currently, right now,
Not.
it's not.
We're playing on just changing the number of people that come up every day.
yeah. So maybe just
Less people.
just starting with less people, or reducing the rate in which people fall over or something like that. Just how do you
That
ease
is
people
kinda
into this
sad,
situation?
Because that depends on temperature right now.
Right.
It's just the first couple days. We could definitely do that.
Yeah, you just think about how you're going to ramp people in. That's definitely better than going to the expository tutorial route, of the I'm just going to tell you everything that you need to know and hope you remember it when you play the game. Ease people into the experience.
Yeah, and in fact, if it's just the case that if you have your high-risk person and if you've got your really core, I can tell how that might map to reality. And you don't need to tell me that they're at risk if they're the ones that keep dying like flies. I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's kind of a visceral way to learn that lesson. Is the game, when you guys play the game, do you feel that you are winning it?
No.
All right, so if you don't have it really high in your backlog, you probably should put it there. You need to do the gameplay balancing first thing, because you need to play test that. even if you guys are, you can use yourselves as playtesters to some extent for difficulty, but keep in mind that if you think the game is hard, the game is impossible. If you think the game is easy, the game is hard.
Well, I think the game's impossible right now.
Okay.
Which has to do, I think we have like a bug where too many people show up, which I think is something you noticed also. It's just like they're all on fire all at once. And I think we only intend to start with like 4 or 5 people. And the fact that there's like 20 there is like an accident. We're fixing that.
Sure. You could easily have it, they could arrive over the course of the level or whatever. If
Definitely.
But yeah, I would say make sure that gameplay piece is really high.
Definitely. Game balancing.
Have you all played Diner Dash at all? Is it free online?
Yeah, you should be able to find at least a video of it.
Tapper.
Ruby
Diner Dash
Tapper.
or Tapper. They're basically time management games, very similar to this one. You can take a look at those just to see how they ramp up difficulty and how easy it is when you first start compared to after about 5 minutes of play. And try to think of that, it might be as a baseline.
I had a question. So somewhere it says that we should have explicit end conditions for our game.
That's an explicit end condition. You die.
Loss is an end condition.
Yeah.
You can.
Well, you don't technically ever lose. You just lose people.
So there should be
So
some point
that's
where I
fine.
know that, okay, I can stop trying right now. I can try playing the game again. We try to keep it vague because every game is going to do it differently. If it's you had the heat wave lasted 4 days and you ended those 4 days of heat wave or whatever, and that heat wave's over, then you're done.
We were just going to do it for like 20 people dead or something like that.
Yeah,
That will work
that's fine too.
Right now you've got
Whatever you need, whatever is best for the project.
You could actually do both, right? It's like if you keep this town going for 20 days without losing X number of people, you win. Otherwise, you lose.
That's an aesthetic choice, I think.
Yeah,
The modern
exactly.
game shtick is that all games have a win condition, but classic games didn't. They had a lose condition only.
Yeah, you could be like a Tetris kind of thing, where you just how long can you last? But summer doesn't last forever. If somebody goes for 200 days, it's probably not a heat wave anymore.
Funny. That's funny. After 90 days, you're like, summer is over. No one's talking of heat wave. Wait for the sequel. Winter. That's true. In some parts of the world, it actually is heat wave all year round. Like
Singapore.
Cool. Any other stuff?
No, that's it.
Last thing for me then is product backlog item 20, menu user interface, side menu. What is that?
Yeah, so that's not actually well explained. That has to do with the installable items, which
It's
Roy
kind
isn't
of
here, but Roy's
getting
working on.
input.
I
So,
see.
like, the pods
Okay, cool.
Or, like add water station.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. We just weren't sure what you were talking about there.
I've
That's
meant
enough.
to use them.
No. These documents are for you. As long as you understand what's going on, that's why Philip was saying, yes, we didn't understand. There's probably some things in your head that you understand, but also, in case you didn't see that, then
Yeah.
you wanted to go over that.
Yeah.
All right.
So add water station, is it red on there because it's high priority?
No, red means it was cut.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, and we like that. Like cutting the
left it
features and leaving them there is fine. Sometimes, as a morale, removing them is also good. Have a party when you do that. But as memory, they're good for institutional memory to know. Hey, we thought about this. We cut it later on. Oh, assuming you had another couple weeks, we can go back to it.
Almost every project I work on, I now have a do not do list. Like, this is the thing I thought about, and I really want to do it, and I'm going to write down here so I know I'm not going to ever do it.
Yeah.
So if later when I think about, what about that? Oh, right.
Never do
You're not going to do it.
Never do that because I don't have time. And so it's really, I think it's, even if you don't keep those on your main to-do list, it's cool to have them there for a little bit just so you remember, oh, right, we cut that.
Okay.
Thanks.
And actually, the vision statement isn't due until December 10th.
Okay.
It's just we wanted to give you the chance to make an update now if you could, but this discussion is fulfilling that, so that's good. All right. Thanks. Have a great holiday. All right, Drew, when you're ready, go ahead and play.
Yes. Oh, excellent.
There's still some instructions which are missing from within the game.
Okay.
So I'll just explain those now. So the goal of the game is to build up your victory progress to 100%.
Yep.
And the way you do that is by setting your toys to build or
gather.
yeah, and you do that by clicking. So the story is like you brought your toys to the beach, and they have these sandcastles. But then the waves, like if they cover the sandcastles, the toys will then take damage, and they can only get hit by the waves twice. They take damage if they start underwater or end underwater. And so, in order to prevent your toys from getting swept under the waves, you can move them by clicking and dragging them to castles.
Okay.
And then they will move one castle at a time. So this guy will move here, here.
It's pretty much the same as during the playtest then, last I saw.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last thing you can do, or you can hover over this to see what the predictions are, and you can hover over the castles.
The predictions are no longer perfect. Excellent. I like that. I like that change. All right. Cool. I'm gonna say again, this toy is immune to water damage.
But he does not immune to being swept away.
Ah. Okay.
Okay. So while he's playing, did you have a discussion about cutting features after Monday as a team?
Yeah.
Did you cut anything?
We cut like kind of any sort of big changes where we would like give people special abilities or like give any sort of like long tutorial kind of like that.
Okay. So you cut things he hadn't started yet, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything that if you had to cut today, like, could you cut anything right now, or does everything have to go in the way you've thought about the game?
So what we mainly have left is like UI changes, like make this a cloud so it fits into the theme of our game, or like add like arrows to show like where
they're gonna go and how they're going.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a lot of that would be, a lot of that is necessary to make sure that our game is standalone. But I guess like worst case scenario, we make that a blob of text, which would be like absolute worst.
Do you already have the feature to do a blob of text?
Yeah, that would
like
be.
It's already in there, or
yeah, that would be our menu screen.
Okay.
Which we didn't show you, but
cool. Okay. For your vision statement, so it's I said if you have a new one today, we'd like to see it. If you don't have a new one today, make sure you update your vision statement before you turn in the game on the December 10th.
Okay, yeah, we do have an updated vision statement now.
Oh, you do? Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Then I'll review it.
Okay.
We
should
reviewed.
I submit it to Stellar though?
Yeah, submit it to Stellar. Okay. Submit it under the December 10th one.
Okay.
And then on December 10th, if anything else changes, resubmit it on the December 10th one. That's the one we're going to use and judge the game by. The main thing I saw on the one you have now is that just the 30 seconds of gameplay is really, really vague. So if you changed that for this new one, then you did good.
Okay, yeah, we made it a lot more concrete now that we have a more
Cool.
concrete
That's exactly right. So the biggest thing that Philip and I saw was about your, basically about the representational art, the quality spent on the representational art compared to normal other feedback.
Yeah. So right now it is. The graphics that you have in the game looks really cute, and they're attractive, they're alluring, they make people want to play the game. And then your UI isn't up to that. Right? You have this issue, and this happens in a lot of games, where the quality of one asset or one kind of asset is showing how far back the rest of your assets. This obviously means that you might be inclined to make sure that the rest of the stuff looks as good as what you've got. Things like the bar graph, for instance, is probably the most important part of the entire game is the bar graph. But it also looks like the least visually polished thing that you've got on screen. And also things like when you want to instruct your characters to move around, for instance, like you said, right now you have to explain it. But I expect to see some sort of visual feedback, UI feedback, when I have, say, instructed someone to move somewhere else.
That's what we're planning to do. We're planning to probably have like a go to your destination and then get
And the danger right now is that your characters and your sandcastles and your clouds have set this standard of visual quality that the rest of your stuff now needs to meet.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty tall. I mean, you clearly have the skills to do it. The question is whether you have the time to do it. And that's what I'm worried about. Because you don't just want people. I mean, you want people to look at your characters when they're trying to think about whether they're going to play your game. When they're playing your game, you want them looking at that bar graph and where they're going, right? And the quality.
So when it comes to a feature like, okay, here's an arrow showing going from one place to another, do you already have code in place to do that, but just you don't have the art asset? Do you have the art asset but not the code, or do you not have any of it?
I think that was like our actually like highest priority feature to implement by like the end of Thanksgiving weekend. So that would be like our number one.
But you're starting from 0 and going. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Don't they have arrows showing what
They have arrows showing that they are moving, but not where they're moving to.
Yeah. And do you have to click twice on a character? Is that correct?
No.
No. Okay, it's just a click and hold.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's a little difficult.
the cancel is I mean,
Yeah,
the cancel is intuitive to a computer programmer, but no one else.
Is there sound?
That's another thing that's being implemented.
Okay. And how far are you with sound? Is it a...
Potential like background music, but we were trying to just like figure out which one we actually want to put in.
Well, what about sound for I click the thing and sound for...
sound, but we haven't put it in yet.
Okay.
All right. My recommendation on that stuff is don't worry about picking the right background music.
Yeah.
Put in stupid background music, and then you will hear it, and then you'll be motivated to change it. But most importantly, you'll have proven that your code can support background music and click simultaneously, et cetera, right? Which it can, because it's not hard, but just be safe, right? Put in placeholder sounds, put in placeholder art for whatever. If it is in fact the case that you end up with your cool, cute toys being more visually exciting than your UI, there's another cheat you can do, which is to say lower the quality of your characters if you don't have time to improve the quality of your UI.
Just pixelize them.
Obviously, improving the quality of your UI is better, but again, these are what you can cope with that. But yeah, you do want people to focus on the right things.
Yeah. From a usability standpoint, we're going to be looking stronger at I click a thing, it gives me the sound, like an audio feedback that I clicked a thing, more than there's background music going on.
Sure.
That background music is an important aesthetic element that we're also going to look at. But when we're ranking our priorities, usability is higher than aesthetic.
Yeah. Another thing is right now for usability, there is no hint. So we're talking about so far about hints that where is this guy going? The guy is moving or not moving, whatever. But currently there is no clue that he's clickable. Yeah. Except for the instructions. So you want him to react in some way. Like the easy way is to make him bigger. Right? And just scale them, right? So to have them scale up or something when your mouse is over them or something. Just give us some really simple clue. Doesn't have to be complicated code-wise, but you definitely need that clue. Also, the part where this guy, this castle is perfectly safe, it's never in danger, if I saw in your backlog, we got to figure out how to solve that problem. I would make that pretty high priority, actually higher priority than any polishing you're doing, because your game currently has a pretty easy strategy of leave a guy there and click for 100 turns, right?
They have to be at their own station or to like work on it.
Sure, you may never win, but it's easy to never lose, certainly. But maybe that's not interesting. Actually, no. This guy by himself, doing nothing but building, can win the game in 100 turns, right? So
Our proposed solution to that is after you lose 2 guys or 1 guy, you do.
Okay, cool.
That's not very difficult to implement, and we have to.
Sure. Okay. All right, cool. But I would try to make that sooner, because your game is not. Make sure anything that your game is not done. Like I feel like that is not done, right? If you with that flaw. And as you actually mentioned in your backlog, that this may add new tasks and bugs, because it will, right? So make sure that that's relatively high priority.
Okay.
I would say.
About it is that then you have to test all of that on people. Because you're going to have a different kind of bar graph, right? That's what I'm getting from what you're describing. You're gonna, maybe rearrange the way how your fonts and your progress bars and stuff appear, and all that's going to be understood differently by people who've never seen your game, and you need to get that information, which takes time.
Yeah. Oddly, one thing that in some sense the poor bar graph tells me is that right now I know this is a bar graph. It's probably giving me information, so I should try to figure out what that information is. As soon as you turn this into something that looks like a cloud or something, I might stop knowing that it's information.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right, so right now I see it and I think to myself, what does it do?
That's something you can really quickly paper prototype and get in front of people who've never seen this before.
Yeah. In fact, you could take a screenshot of this. You need to stick it into Photoshop, put your thing on there,
mock it up.
What does this mean?
Yep.
Random person on the street I've never met before.
Family member that you might see over the weekend.
Over Thanksgiving, for example. But yeah, you don't need to put it in the game to test it.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can get that bar graph to look like it's part of the scene while making it look like a bar graph. It doesn't necessarily need to be made out of clouds. It could be in a cloud. It could be projected on a cloud. It could be,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Moving on. First things first. On Monday, I mentioned try to do an updated vision statement. Again, it's due December 10th. If you have one now and it's in Stellar now, awesome.
Yeah, we did not submit it.
Okay.
We have not submitted it, but we did just rewrite it.
Okay, cool. Then submit that to Stellar under the December 10th final one, and then resubmit it again.
Resubmit it again for changes. Sure.
Okay. The big thing.
What do you want risks to have? It seems like by the end, their risks are kind of meaningless.
By December 10th, risks are too late?
So just keep the risks we originally had.
Okay.
If you
so
wanted
we updated the risks right now because pretty much every risk we had before didn't make sense.
That's perfect. The thing I'm really looking at is 30 seconds of gameplay.
Yeah, that completely changed.
Cool, because that's the thing we're judging your game on. If your game does not look like the 30-second gameplay, it's a huge red flag for us.
Yes.
Actually, there probably are still risks on December 10th. There won't be implementation risks. It won't be like, can we implement something? It'll be more of the what happens when real people try to use this thing.
Yeah.
Right. So we can write those down.
I think that risk is December 8th.
Possibly, yeah.
So.
Well, I mean,
because we're testing with 100 players.
Yeah, but it might be what happens when the next 100 players come along.
Sure.
What happens long term?
Yeah, there's real deployment.
Sure are they.
For your product backlog and task list, are these prioritized when you look at them? Like you're using Asana, right?
Yeah.
Do you use priority?
We did not do a good job of
do soft priority, small, medium, large on some tasks. Yeah.
No, that's size.
That's size, but you don't necessarily have.
So I think they should be theoretically they should be ordered by priority.
Okay.
Yeah, that would.
Because it doesn't look like they're ordered by name or something else. I don't know. We couldn't tell how you're organizing it, so hopefully you are thinking about that as you are moving closer to the deadline and have to choose, I'm going to work on this right now.
Make sure it's organized.
Yeah, I think now that will be more important.
How are you doing work over the weekend, over the break?
I will probably do a little bit, but mostly other work.
Cool. Yeah, no, we tell you don't. Like, don't plan on having that's bonus work, right?
Yeah.
But if you are working individually elsewhere and you're not able to talk to each other, how do you know what you're working on? That's the big thing for that.
One of the big things that we're noticing on your list of things, a lot of them are mostly server and game system based. Probably also because you've been getting a lot of feedback from Pablo and people who've been running this game in front of the audience.
Right.
You're not getting a whole lot of feedback from the people who are actually playing it on the client side.
Yes, that's true.
So the thing I'm really worried about is that the client side user interface doesn't look like it's actually changed all that much. I mean, I'm sure the technology has, but the actual user experience hasn't. So I am worried that you're not actually getting in useful usability information and then iterating on the client experience.
Yep. And so you mentioned in the presentation you were dropping Phaser. Are you in the process of dropping Phaser? Have you started? You're done with that. So you're no longer in Phaser, you've got something else.
Yeah.
It's buggy, but you've got something else.
It's a little bit buggy, but it's almost as good
as
we had before.
Because we were going to ask, do you really need to drop Phaser? And so you're already done, so why bother asking?
Yeah.
What else? Oh, and give some time looking at your scoring mechanism. And you kind of hand waved through it during the presentation, as here's a couple different ways we can do scoring. Are you thinking about scoring as a team, or are you relying on the client to come up with that?
So I'm actually not sure why our scoring works the way it does, because it's harder to implement. And
it's also not very intuitive.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like there's a specific function that makes sure that you only get 1 point, and you might as well get more than 1 point. I think that's just something that has been low priority and hasn't been fixed. Especially because nobody actually understands how they're getting points, and they only ask at the end of the game, wait a minute, how did I get points?
You might, I mean, 2 ways that you can resolve that. One is you playtest it, and then you ask people how they think that they should be getting points. And the other way is you just ask Tom, and let him make the decision for you.
Third way, if you're with family members, you can play the analog game, come up with a scoring mechanism. Like, just do it. You don't need to be programming to do it. You can probably do it really quickly.
My guess is that a cumulative scoring system will give you more differentiation between players, whereas the 1 point for everybody kind of situation means a lot of people get the same score.
Yeah.
Are these, looks like you have actually 3 backlogs, is that true?
This is backlog and these are task lists.
I see.
Same system, but yeah.
Okay, so does that mean it's repeated? I've got this is the backlog and these are task lists of the same thing? In other words, I think repeated in both places. Do you have one list?
No.
So you should have somewhere one list that lists everything you need to do prioritized. So that way when one of you
don't have something exactly like that.
The reason why you want that is so that if I'm working on the back end and I have gotten to all my priority 2 stuff done, I'm working on priority 3 stuff, but on the front end there's only priority 1, there's a whole bunch of priority 1 bugs.
Okay.
I need to switch to the front end.
I see. Okay, so far I don't think anybody has, only Shalom has switched. He's like permanently switched.
Now part of that, there's a learning curve problem for doing that, but if you get that far out of whack, you really need to be ready or be aware of the fact that might happen.
I see, yeah.
So it also does no good to implement a feature on the back end that's not implemented on the front end and vice versa, really. For some features, the features that pair at least, right? So there's got to be really close communication, and one way to handle that is to have a unified list, bugs and features intermingled sometimes, right? What's the most important thing to do next? And I would be a little bit worried if this is your entire organization system about stuff falling through the cracks pretty easily, especially since you're dividing your team up into subgroups to sort of handle front-end, back-end problems. It means that it's not a communication barrier, but there's no highway of communication. Like, since you are separated out, you will tend to forget to inform the other side of what's going on. And the one list also helps with that. And also, let's see, did I see here that are you adding word lists? Is that, or I may make that up? No, I just saw cloud words in
they have
export.
a word cloud on the back end now.
Yeah, not for players.
I see. So
the back end. That's been around.
Got it. So the back end. I see. Okay. So then, are you, for example, not bothering to have the feature for collusion or cheating?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. We have no anti-cheating.
All right, cool. You probably should mention that explicitly somewhere. I'm not sure where that goes, though. Yeah, it's an anti-task, certainly. And to the client, for example, you'd want to make sure the client knows this is the thing we're not doing, and you probably don't care because of your use case, but we should mention it in case you go, no, wait a minute.
Your final presentation is a great place for that. Here's something we thought about and didn't do because of this.
Yeah. Although if you do have any conversation with the client, mention that, because if they're like, that's crazy, you want to know that before the final presentation. Not that you might not be able to do anything about it with the time you've got, but it'd be good to be aware if maybe there is an easy solution the client can come up with or whatever that you haven't. Because maybe full cheating stopping is not necessary, but some minor things are.
I mean, I think that the way they run it, if you cheated, it'd be obvious, first of all, right? Like, they're going to show
because the cloud.
So, like,
okay, yeah.
What you did.
Who put cat and dog in here? That's ridiculous. Okay, sure. Okay, cool. That may well be enough right there. All right.
And also, they want us to focus on pretty serious players, right?
So who aren't going to be cheating?
They're not going to cheat.
All right, cool. That's a nice advantage. And that's a thing to include in your target. If you mention your target audience is in fact people who've already drunk the Kool-Aid. They're already on your team, right? They're not trying to. It's not whack people on the internet who are going to do whatever they want. That's an important.
Like players. It's not typical players.
Sure. That's an important thing to mention in your vision statement. Actually, if it's not in there already, is that I'm behind on that, but
one other thing is, given that your game is designed to work both on phone and on laptop, on PC, you do want to set up multiple test sessions so that you can test your user interface on both clients. Maybe you're testing them simultaneously, but then you have to make sure that when you're getting your usability feedback, you are getting some usability feedback from the phone users and some, because it's very different. different.
So I think that's sort of a weird feature where, as far as the class is concerned, I don't think we care about the mobile interface.
Okay, all right.
Like, that's not something that we're promising.
Okay.
In
Oh,
terms
good.
of
Good.
the course.
Be clear about that.
That wasn't clear on the priority list.
On the other hand, it seems easy enough, and the client really wants it.
Okay.
All right.
You might want to do the we'll guarantee that the PC side will work, and if you want us to do the mobile side, maybe pay us.
Here's 0.9b. You get 1.0 with the DOS.
I mean, seriously, this is real work that you're doing for that real people get paid to do, you know, and for the sake of this class, we want you to turn in a polished product, and we never ask you to target 2 platforms. The client does, obviously, but then it's also reasonable to tell the client. First priority.
Beyond the scope of the class.
Yeah.
Well,
I think he's been very good about mentioning that every time.
Sure.
He wants us to do well in the class, not
Sure.
make him happy.
Well, and that's another place where your prioritization can help a lot, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that the web interface on a thing with a keyboard is the one that's highest priority. And if you have time, then you make the mobile one work. I mean, you're going to already have problems with your poor mobile people on their phones or typing really slowly compared to the people on the computers.
Yeah, this is something we talked about in terms of fairness that sort of got dropped because it's very hard to do.
Oh yeah, you can't compensate for the fairness, but it's a thing to be aware of, obviously, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I have a question about deployment. How long after the course will the game have to be up?
At least
the end of calendar
through January.
Or through the whole of January?
Yeah, through the whole of January if possible. If you can't do that, let us know, and then we'll come up with a different solution. Grading is really soon. Like, we're going to do grading.
Yeah, grading will be over before then, well before then.
If you have a way to deploy it to a different platform, a different server, if that is what is necessary, then we'll think about that. But that's the other thing too, is we're going to have a conversation with Pablo at the end of the class to figure out.
And OCW would like to figure out also.
Yeah, because OCW wants to actually. That's right. Forever.
So ours is a little bit more tricky.
Yours is more tricky.
Find a solution for that.
If we can talk, that's something we can talk about after class. This is something we can talk about during class. After January 1st, it's not going to be part of the grade because the grade's already done by December 15th.
Yeah.
But for OCW capture, we'd like to have something there.
Yeah. What does it run on now?
It's a node server.
It's a node server.
Actually, it's 2 node servers, unfortunately. One for the backend and then
So the front end is just static.
Actually, the front end is HTML now.
So maybe we can talk to Red Cross Red Crescent about finding money to pay for the servers, basically.
Yeah.
And maybe even money for one of your assistant workers or something to help set it up.
So that's something to put in your vision statement too, is like or as a release note or something.
The same place the caveats go for
the risks section.
Yeah, actually, risks is a good place. That's close to what we got for that. Risks, cheating, risks, server goes down.
All right, we take it too much of your time. Thank you. Have a good holiday.
Thank you very much.
So, looking at your project, the biggest thing we found was, can you cut one of your mini games? Is that even possible?
So yeah, we already cut one of our mini games.
So how long? You're at 3. So you cut one down to 3.
Yeah.
Do you need 3? Is like 3 the magic number that just says everything's wrapped up together, or if one of those fell away and you polish 2, is that good enough?
I think 2 would significantly change how the game fundamentals, or just in terms it's kind of a puzzle. So it's if you only had 2 clues versus 3 clues, it makes it more of a puzzle element.
Also, the fact that each game covers we cut down one game that and combined it so to minimize. To still try to cover everything we want to teach.
Yeah.
We'd have to find ways to teach what was in the minigame we cut in other
Absolutely.
dialogue or something.
Okay. Cool.
Sure. So cutting a minigame would in fact mean a lot of work.
Yeah. Great. That's
all right.
Perfect. Excellent answer. Otherwise, we're looking through your product backlog. Your prioritization looked really good to me and Philip. So I think do you feel like you're in control of the information that you have right now, of where you are on your team, where you are on your project?
Yeah, I think our team, since the way we structured it, it's everything has to come together, but putting it together will not take as long as it would originally, because we kind of all divided up tasks. Everyone's working on the same kind of tasks, for the same thing, but we just have to put it all together. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's very modular, since we have 3 mini games and we have like somebody work on the main scene, and then we have end scene, so like you just have to like put the pieces together.
Okay. Cool. Can you pull up the vision statement really quick? So
Yeah.
On Monday I mentioned talk about the vision statement, change it if you need to. On yours, it looked pretty good. I really like the narrative aspect of the 30 seconds of gameplay. Does your game still feel like there's a narrative to it though? Like, is it as strong in that game?
So I think it's probably not as strong as we want it to be right now, but that's only because the dialogue hasn't been
Really written.
exactly.
Been drafted.
Yeah, we're like
Yeah.
we're going through like revising.
Okay, cool. It's not due till December 10th for reals. So that was an exercise just to make sure that you do it now rather than waiting to the last minute.
Yeah.
So once you have a finished version in, turn it in on Stellar under the December 10th deadline. And really make sure that the 30 seconds of gameplay are more representative of what the game really is. Are you having problems with the title? Are you having problems with the title?
I would say so.
Yeah.
What
Is the problem too many ideas or too few?
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually the easier one to deal with, I think, because when you resolve it, no one's mad.
What are your strategies for that?
We haven't. We've been ignoring it.
You've been ignoring it.
Okay, that's actually that's a fine place to be, because it's relatively easy to brainstorm it. But if you tried that and it didn't work,
Because a title does, even if it happens last minute, it's another art asset to create, another thing to integrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been thinking like as we'll just get a name for the village and we'll be like saving
Village name?
Beautiful.
Sure.
Yeah.
That sounds easy.
That's fine. Have you been brainstorming like water themes? Like water names?
Water names.
Maybe the Ghanan
Yeah,
word for water?
We looked through like Ghana stuff, but like Ghana city names, and then like we haven't actually like looked through like specifically like we have to work on that.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough. Is that on your backlog?
It is.
All right. Score.
It's at the
The very, very bottom, yeah.
All right, cool.
Find a name that isn't offensive.
yeah, that's important.
How has that been going along since we last talked to you about the research and stuff? Are you done with that, or are you still in progress with that?
Well, we got together and did like a mega research, like find all of the things and get inspiration from it for like mainly for the artists, so that we can get like a cohesive theme together. And I think that also helps inform the decision, the design behind the water filtration game, for example. So yeah, I mean, I think still like if the artists ever need to make something new, we still like look up and see if we can find references.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
So I actually don't think that I have played this game, because minigame sounds like a new thing to me. Saving Animal Village. Give me a quick 5-second playthrough. I hit that, I'm sure. Minigame 1. Yes. Droop, droop, purify water conversation goes here. I will purify. Yay! This is the minigame?
The done button should be a next button.
Oh, excellent. Oh, excellent. And now I play the game where I'm doing some actual sorting, and this is an actual game. Okay, cool. I'm going to assume that I do something like this. All right, cool. Main thing so when I am putting on my feasibility hat and I hear the word mini game, I always think, but it seems like you actually have a mini game. Good job, a mini game.
Mini games tend to just be
Game games.
the many games.
Many games.
M-A-N-Y.
Yes, mini games is not what you want. What you actually want is mini games. Oh my gosh.
This is a house.
All right, you've got a lot of features here.
Yeah.
And that is cool.
A mini game, or is this? Okay.
This is a mini game.
All right.
All right. All right, I see here. Okay, cool. And so how much more do you think is going into these mini games?
So we just, for two of them, I haven't actually
We're on the river
had an
one.
update
On
on
the
the
second one.
symptoms one, but symptoms one should probably just be dialogue and pictures. That's it.
Got it.
The water filtration should be instruction page or interactive tutorial at the beginning, so you just don't like dive into it and it's like, what's happening? And I think just clearer instructions for the water placement would be this one.
I see. Okay.
the main thing that we have to do right now is just the end game, making sure that you can, once you finish all the mini games, you have the clues you need to take to the mayor, and then you can have that conversation.
Okay.
And also artists.
Cool.
All right. I win. Yay. All right, cool. All right, so you have 3 mini games, and they're like doing stuff. That's good. All right.
Those are the symptom.
Do you have any? So it seems like for the most part, these mini games are relatively simple. The code is actually not. There's not much. It's a.
You're using
click the right thing. You're using assets, stuff like that. Do you have any unknowns sort of tech-wise at this point? You sort of know everything, or is there? We're not sure how that works. Anything like that left?
I don't know how. I think something that has been buggy consistently, maybe it's changed now. I'm not updated on it. Is the conversation UI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This we're going to do. It's basically we need to iron out a few bugs with the conversation UI a bit and make it more make the visual aspect of it more appropriate with the theme that we're going with our assets. But other than that, code-wise, there's just a couple bugs that won't be hard to fix.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So if you know, do a glance. I'm sure you already have, but make sure that but anything that has any question marks at all with it is higher priority.
Yeah.
Maybe not even finishing it, right? Like if it's the case that you go over the task and you're like, okay, now the question marks are gone, and I'm comfortable moving it down in priority. Feel free to do that, but make sure that those question marks are done sooner than later, because anytime there's a question mark, it might become 5 question marks, and then you're in trouble. So just make sure you look at it seriously as a high priority item.
When is sound going in?
So we have sound files in a folder, but yeah, it
Okay.
should probably go in.
Yeah.
Okay.
We ended up. They were taking a long time to push. According to Rachel, they were taking a long time to push to our test server.
Okay.
So we just removed the assets and just pushed it without the sound.
Okay.
We do have some sound.
All right. Cool.
Generally speaking, sound, much like art, if the file is the problem, use a stupid file. Right? It's at this stage of development, it's more important that it makes sound than it make the right sound.
Yeah.
And so, because again, you might discover that, oh, it turns out playing that sound is harder than we thought because we can't use an OGG file. That's the kind of thing you want to know. But, all right, cool.
Great. Thank you. Have a good holiday.
You too.
I think I've only played the paper version.
No, you played the computer version.
No, I did. Way back when.
Yeah,
Way back when. Yes, I did. You are so right.
You have a new version that we're building up, and it's still very broken.
Okay.
The new.
So nothing more playable than that.
Correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
All right.
We kind of rehauled the system of the game. Like,
Yeah.
gameplay's focus is a lot different. We cut out a lot of stuff, and we're focusing more on washing your hands is great, and cholera travels through water. So,
Is that based on feedback from Monday or
Yeah.
previous?
Yeah, that's correct. We also have very good feedback.
Good.
Good. It was interesting. So one of the crucial things we were wondering about is we were like sort of designing our game with a huge variety of options. But we recently switched to this new thing that we really like a lot, which is that basically we roll out the mechanics one by one. So we start with one village and like 2 or 3 options, maybe only 2. And it actually just is the case that one of them is better than the other, right? Because if it's the point of the game is to teach you something, like it's okay if just washing your hands is OP and something else is like not so great, right? And then it actually slowly becomes more and more of a game where we roll out another village, right? Now you have to trade off balancing your resources. Okay. But then another village appears that's upstream of both of them. And suddenly the trade-offs become not so clear. Where before it was just one thing is more price effective than another. Suddenly you actually have to care about how infected they are, because boiling your water will reduce the extent to which you're infected by upstream water. And and he really liked that as a
So that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
How does that get affected by that change based on the UI that we saw? Is it the same? Is it using the same?
It's going to end up being the same sort of system. It's only that the pop-up screen now eliminates a bunch of options because they aren't necessary.
So you removed a ton of options, you aren't creating new options.
Correct.
That's what I'm hearing.
we basically gutted a whole bunch of the options that seemed redundant and apparently weren't helpful to people on a local scale. And then we changed those options so that they're more distinct. So while before it was just like the higher magnitude to price ratio of
effect. Now it's like some things only really touch infection rate, some things just cure people and don't touch infection rate. And now you have things that have that upstream, downstream play. Affecting it, yeah.
Cool. So that's the other crucial thing we were struggling with before is how to make legitimate, actually meaningful gameplay choices when if you just have a bunch of options, there's going to be some like static build, just like the correct one, right? But so we need to make it so that it's more situation dependent. And Jenny had a great idea, which was to have to be highly affected by basically we have a thing that's the best for reducing infection rate locally, and then a thing that's the best for reducing the extent to which you spread infection downstream, and a thing that's the best at protecting you from infection upstream. And then suddenly, that can be made incredibly clear to the player, right? We're not hiding what the best build is.
You're playing rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah,
exactly. What it sounds like. Okay.
Awesome. All right, so sounds like UI-wise, obviously this is a huge improvement, just removing the options, et cetera, et cetera. But when you start having a little bit of, did you already have the crosstalk in your game code between villages going on?
Yes, we had that previously.
All right, so again, this is still mostly, it really is cutting, you're actually mostly cutting rather than adding, it sounds like. All right, cool.
But you are still adding the new UI.
Correct.
Which I imagine we would see if we were looking at your backlog now or soon. A lot of that would be in the backlog.
Yeah.
So I think right now you've got some can you go to the task list? I think this might have been the vague one.
Oh yeah, the sprint task list.
Yeah, that's like wicked vague.
Tomorrow, but this needs to be submitted today.
Yeah.
So you get like this really vague description.
Yeah, we figured that. No, that's.
It'll probably be in the sprint task list 5. I'll outline the stuff that.
I often don't care what's in this. I use what's in this to know what you're doing. So I knew exactly what was going on.
Okay.
That's okay. That's
good.
And if you didn't turn me into anything, that's like, okay, you're really on fire. All right, cool. So Philip and I were talking about the UI that you were doing. You had mentioned when you were in the presentation Civilization, but Philip and I also, Philip actually remembered this. If you go to Mall Industria, it's Pablo Pedercini is a serious game designer. He might hate the term serious, but he made a game called, I think it was called the McDonald's game?
I don't know.
I think it's called the McDonald's game. Again, this is Philip's idea. That has basically, there's a lot of different screens going on in that game, but if you were to make your game, it might be,
okay,
yeah.
I know exactly
If your game had as much UI as one of those working screens, then you'd be golden. So that's kind of like a bar to set yourself towards that I think you could probably match, especially now that you've cut a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah.
But you can look at that as yet another way of like seeing how he's putting together all these UI elements. They're doing all these systemic changes in this very simple interface. So take a look at that. Otherwise, can you go to the vision statement?
Yep.
So vision statement, on Monday I asked for you to revise it.
Yep, I have it revised. I haven't submitted it yet.
Okay,
it's
cool.
right here on my computer.
Great. Submit it under the December 10th deadline.
Okay.
And then if you have a new version afterwards, to submit it there. And again, the big thing that I was really looking for is that 30 seconds of gameplay actually reflecting what the game really is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you do this?
Read it real quick. This is what I have now for the 30 seconds of gameplay, if that's better.
Yeah.
That sounds like, well, kind of. That looks to me like an overview of a lot of gameplay.
More than 30
The thing is, it was hard to cut it into 30 seconds because if you don't know the beginning of the game, then like doing 30 seconds in the middle doesn't make sense, and doing 30 seconds in the beginning doesn't make sense either. So that's why I kind of like.
I might question that. So let's pretend, if you take what is it that you are doing in 30 seconds in the game? Is you're probably looking at one village and saying, what's the right intervention for me to do right now? Can you describe that experience in a way that at all? Like, I need to wait. I decide that because there's nobody downstream, I don't need to worry about this thing. So I'm going to just direct everyone to boil their water. Like, describe the thought process. And
that might be more like the major gameplay concept or the vision itself.
Like that's what you're doing for the whole game. Absolutely, you're doing all that stuff. But the third thing in the gameplay is really about what does the game feel like in the moment. And it's a planning game, so it's hard to do 30 seconds of gameplay that's meaningful. But
so if rock paper scissors is a way to synthesize that, or I'm making choice A versus choice B now.
Yeah, because your game is about weighing choices and making a good one.
Yeah.
So it's okay for 30 seconds of gameplay should be about making a choice, right?
Okay.
If what you have that runs now is very similar to what I saw a while ago at this point, is this backlog up to date, out of curiosity?
So, not really. It still
Okay.
needs to be fixed. A lot
All right.
of the stuff is like in prog.
Okay.
It's difficult.
So
tasks have been split up, and like I'm somewhat removed from the coding, so I don't actually know what's being done.
All
so
right.
for me, it's hard to edit it.
All right.
So
Do you
I'm
have
not exactly sure what.
So I would claim that, not over the holiday, but priority on Monday would be to make sure it is up to date so you guys know what's going on. Because for me looking at it, hearing that I can't play a newer version of the one I played a while back and seeing this backlog, I think, uh-oh. So it may be that you're much better off than that. But I think your highest priority task on, let's say, Monday is find out if you're in trouble or not.
Yeah.
And if the answer is we know we're in trouble, then okay, you still need to do it so you know what trouble you're in and how you can to adapt. Okay. I don't have much information, but I'm a little bit nervous right now, but I suspect you're better off than it looks on that page.
So you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-person coding team. Would you say one person on that team sits lead? Do you have a lead coder?
Harry probably.
Yeah,
Harry
probably.
or Derek. Harry
Does he know
does
he
most
is
of
lead?
the back end. I think he does because he
Okay.
mostly doles it. Him and Derek dole out the tasks, so I assume they know that they're the leads. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that could just be you meeting with them to make it easier rather than a full 8-person.
You might not need the entire 8-person team for that. But again, there's a difference between the person who knows what the coders are doing and the person who's doing the most code.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. And so, you want to figure out who's really wearing what hat there. But yeah.
Cool. Did we kept you longer? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your patience.
And yeah.
Do you have any specific sort of questions, worries that we can try to talk about, or just get me out of here? It's Thanksgiving.
I don't know. I think the big unknown for us right now is the new UI, right?
Yeah.
Like we have the mechanics that we want.
Mhm.
We really have been playing with the numbers for a while for what infection rates and what efficacies of treatments and what prices.
Got it.
To a beatable game that's also not trivial.
All right, cool.
So we have that. The big question is the UI, right? Like the old version of the UI has all sorts of problems where it'll constantly orphan UI elements and they'll just sort of accumulate on the screen.
Got it. So it's buggy among other.
It's buggy, but so I'm much more worried about having a functioning UI. So one thing I'm thinking about is if we suddenly find we don't have anything working at some point, what sort of bare bones UI would work, right? Like for example, you could conceive of a system, and this is something we're sort of unclear on, right? You could conceive of a UI that works entirely, that would be very, very simple. It would take half an hour to write, where absolutely every single action in the game is like a keyboard thing. Like the 4 villages are mapped to the columns Q through Z, W through X,
Right.
and that grid of 12 buttons does every single action, right? So
Right.
the game could be reduced to that, right? It would take a half hour to write.
Sure.
I
The
would
question
hate
is,
having to explain that though.
Oh yeah. No, so you can't ship with that, but it might be worth doing if it really only takes half an hour, so you can test your game as it exists.
yeah, sure. But there's also a question of
Internally.
there's also a question of whether we're still unclear if we have to. Maybe other people aren't, but I remember at one point hearing something about tablets for what we. Maybe.
We don't need to.
No,
worry
no,
about
you don't. No, you've got a single platform. It's what you've been developing on.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's this.
It's that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what you've been developing on.
Or
That's what you've developed
whatever.
before,
At
that's
this
your
point, I would
platform.
say, whatever's. We actually want to grade it on a computer rather than a tablet.
Okay,
exactly
good,
right.
good.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, tablet was if it was a challenge if you wanted to take it.
Okay, good.
The client was like, so what's the?
I totally misunderstood that.
No. So the
Yeah.
after class life of this game and the other Colorado game is they're being presented to UNICEF as a possible funder for games of that nature.
Okay.
So it's like. You want to make, UNICEF wants to make games about cholera for Ghana, and we're saying, here are what those games might look like. Here are prototypes.
Okay.
These are not the games we're going to ship to you. But if they were going to be the games, so when we're presenting one of these games, we're going to be saying, right now imagine this is a tablet style game.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And the other thing is that if you are graduating and you wanted to work on this project, and Red Crescent had funding for that project, they might hire the students who worked on these games to make that project. So it's very much a talk in January kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So generally speaking, if that takes a big worry of the UI off your shoulders, awesome. But regardless, if you have an unknown like that, like is the new UI, is that a big question mark? I'd make sure you schedule it, prioritize it higher. Sounds like you have your gameplay under control, which is awesome. But you want to make sure that whatever unknowns you have are scheduled sooner, so that if they go horribly awry, you have time to adapt to that problem.
And my last one is going to be, you've already cut a lot. Can you cut more? Like when you meet on Monday and you say, are you in trouble? Like, all right, you proved you can cut a bunch of stuff. You could probably cut a little bit more out of it too. Assuming it's the kind of cutting that doesn't create new work.
Right. But I would start with that. Where the heck are we? If you don't know.
Yeah.
Probably all 8 of you don't know where you are, so it's worth getting all 8 of you to know where you are.
I see the subsets I see like result in it not being even. I didn't even realize that people I forgot it.
And that's why the last project is so tough, actually.
It doesn't fit the school year very well.
Unfortunately, it's a shorter term than we'd like to have, but yeah. 8 people's a lot to keep organized, even with full time.
We only have 7. Don't worry. There's no 8th person.
Okay. Cool.